All right, we're about 8 minutes away from a state of emergency going into effect across all of Ukraine. We've got Lieutenant General Jerry Boykin with us, the former Deputy Undersecretary of Defense, served this country so incredibly honorably. Multiple awards and recognitions for that. Of course, he's way too modest to talk about it. For me, I'd be talking only about it. But, General, this state of emergency and the cyber attack today, and Ukraine now looking to conscribe soldiers as young as 18 all the way to 65. In a just in case, let's form a military here. What do you make of all this?
Well, first of all, Neil, let me say that it's good to see you back on the program, and God bless you for getting through that. This is all hands on deck. Look, the Ukraine, this is all or nothing for the Ukraine. This is survival. This is Russia's an existential threat, and they are pulling out all stops to be prepared for what is inevitable, I believe, which is an all-out Russian assault on the entire country.
General, a lot of people are surprised that Vladimir Putin so far hasn't buckled in the face of what's going to be fairly massive sanctions. I mean, we are going to get to a point where Russia will find it next to impossible to sell pretty much anything, anywhere, to anyone, or even clear financial accounts through any bank anywhere. I mean, it's fairly substantial when all is said and done. Having said that, though, he's ignoring it and seems hell-bent on this attack. Why?
Well, first of all, he calculated this a long time ago. You know, I don't think there's any question that he was expecting the sanctions to be our way of responding to his taking the eastern part of Ukraine. So he calculated all this. He knows what he is doing in terms of what he has to do to survive this. And the Russians have a long history of being willing to and able to withstand an awful lot of punishment economically as well as in other areas. And remember how we sanctioned the North Koreans, and we sanctioned them just about as much as we could. But there were still other countries that were willing to bust those sanctions to supply and support and help the North Koreans. So the same will happen here with Russia.
That's a very good point. And I have noticed, and you're a great student of not only military but economic history, I have yet to find a country that has been sanctioned to its knees. In other words, right on the brink. You know, maybe Libya close. Iran, though, no matter what we threw at them, and I think they're the most sanctioned country on the planet, they still thrive, they still harass. So I'm wondering if anything come of these measures, because as you rightly pointed out, Vladimir Putin has prepared for this. He's kind of shored up finances in Russia. He's cut down his debt, improved his spending, built up reserves, secreted away a lot of money. He seems ready.
Yeah, well, everybody talks about how we should have implemented the sanctions before he crossed the border and went into the attack mode. And the reality is, I agree with that. However, it still would not have stopped him, I am convinced, because he's calculated every aspect of what he's doing here. And I think that they will survive this. And I tell you what's a bigger problem for Putin, I think, is he has underestimated the Ukrainian people. I think he's underestimated just how tough they are. These are rugged, tough people, and they will fight. And they've had a long time to prepare for this. And if you have only one enemy and you're focused on that enemy, you do everything you have to do to make sure that when and if that time comes that you have to fight them, that you're ready. Now, they're short materiel, and their army is not as big as the Russians, but they're going to fight, and Vladimir Putin is going to come out of this, I believe, with a bloody nose, because they don't have public opinion or free press in Russia. But that said, that's why they left Afghanistan in 1989. It was because of the young Russian boys coming home in body bags with no explanation as to why.
Yeah, because a lot of Russian people, you know, had prior to the Ukraine be an independent country and all of that, but we like them. They're not a hostile country. So I'm sure a lot of Russians are scratching their heads here.
There's no question about it. But again, when you don't have a free press, the question is, how well informed are the Russian people? And
That's a good point.
you know, at one time we had American broadcast there and Radio Free America and several of those types of things that were getting factual information to the population. Yeah, the Russians are. I mean, the world is transparent today, and the Russians have other means now, which obviates any requirement for what I just talked about. But that said, how much do they really know? Because part of the propaganda war, and we need to remember this, part of the propaganda war that we're seeing starting to unfold right now is for the Russian people. It's to convince them that we America, we NATO, we are an existential threat to Russia. And every move we make is going to be used against us by the Russians.
Do you think there's any way to avoid an outright invasion of Ukraine?
I do not. I think at this point, first of all, keep in mind the Russian military is very strong and very powerful, but it also has a lot of influence. And yeah, this is an oligarch we have there. But at the same time, having amassed the kinds of forces that he's amassed there on the borders, to turn around and take them back to the barracks, I think would cause him to lose a lot of credibility with his military. This was a very costly operation in terms of rubles. You know, you don't move those kinds of forces and hold them and sustain them there as long as he has, without a huge monetary cost. And I think he's going to lose credibility either way, but I think he would certainly lose it with his military.